that 2 weeks after you all organized a sit-in for Black Lives Matter at Roosevelt, we have 3 phenomenal people from our city whose stories have gone national, who are here because they're inspiring, they impact us, and they're so empowering for many of you that have already learned about the 3 amazing people up here. I know we have kept a lot of this as a surprise, so for you all to be in this space, literally since the information went out on Friday after school, and to pack a room like this in one day says a lot about you and who you are and what you care about and your commitment to justice. So thank you for being here. Will you please give it up for Teressa, Glenn, and Micah?
What's up with y'all, man? How y'all doing?
Yay.
A lot of new faces in here. So my name is Glenn Waco. Waco stands for We Are Change Overall. That's a philosophy that I've instilled in my life, and it grew into me being an activist. But before all that, I actually graduated from Roosevelt. So this is like coming back home and to see all of y'all so engaged and caring about things worth caring about and wanting to learn and apply that. That's beautiful. You know, I also went to George Middle School. And
yes.
Yeah, absolutely, Mustangs.
Yes.
It's history. It's his history with that. But I want to just go right into my history with Roosevelt and how I got started with music, because that leads into everything else. So growing up, I used to study a lot of like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Black Panthers, just the civil rights era and the what COINTELPRO did to the Black Panthers and all of that. I was super interested in social justice stuff. So going into middle school, my great-grandmother, who adopted me when I was a baby, she was like a mother to me, she had a heart attack, she had strokes, and it basically took away her voice. It paralyzed her on the left side, and diabetes eventually took her leg, so I never heard her voice again. And so going into high school, I was a really angry kid, and it showed in my grades, because I had straight F's as a freshman. I was a class clown, I took it out on my teachers and all of that, but what I found Margolis. Margolis taught me Pro Tools and music. Like, I really wanted to do music, and he saw that. And so he took it upon himself to teach me Pro Tools. And from there, I engineered my own music. I used to skip class. And I just recorded everyone here that did music or whatever. I don't know if you guys know Mike Capes and Vinny Dwayne, but me and Vinny actually went here too. And even with Vinny, when he graduated, he was a Gates Millennium Scholar. And that's $1 million scholarship to any college you want to go to. Since he's graduated, every year Roosevelt has had like 1 or 2 go. So like that's history right there. So going in with music, I graduated. I went to New York to study sociology for a year. I came back, me, Mike Capes, and Rashid Jamal. He's from Arkansas, but Mike introduced me to Rashid, and we formed the hip hop collective, The Resistance. And since then, you know, we just kept creating music, kept talking about socially conscious stuff and just having fun and all of that. 2011, I want to say, 2012 is when I met this woman right here at No Limit Stickers. And she basically got us a position she said she was an accountant. We were being taught business and how to handle money, because if you want to get into the industry and be an artist, for any creative in here, it's more that goes into it than just going into a booth and creating music. You have to know your business, and you have to know the value of yourself, not only as an artist, but as a human being, because if you don't, people are going to take advantage of that. Like, labels are going to take advantage of that. People that know a little bit more about the business are going to take that to that advantage, and you're going to be out of a lot. So thanks to this woman, you know, I learned a lot. And fast forward to 2014, on the day of Darren Wilson's acquittal of killing Mike Brown, I quit my job. I went downtown initially. Teressa had been trying to get me out. I didn't go to the first protest initially, but a few days later, I met up with her and everything that was going on downtown. And she handed me a bullhorn. And I was really reluctant, because I didn't want to like make everything about me, because people knew me as a hip hop artist, and I didn't want to, you know, I just wanted to be with the people. But she was like, yo, you need to be the voice. You need to be a voice. There's not a lot of us out here. So I need you to be a voice. And ever since then, it's just been crazy. And she has a bad habit of handing people bullhorns and changing their lives. So, yeah, so we've led protests we've stood in solidarity with so many organizations and represented and provided advocacy for families that have had children that have been killed by police unjustly and have been affected by systemic racism, institutionally racism. We call it state-sanctioned discrimination, because what that is discrimination okayed by the state. If you see something is a problem and you know it's an issue, but you choose to go around it and not address it and not, hold government officials accountable, elected officials accountable, then it becomes a systemic issue. Like you become the issue. So we really got motivated into getting the community politically engaged, and it's been a blessing to just be able to do that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, man. For me, you want to introduce yourself? This is my mentor, by the way. She taught me everything I know.
Yeah, well, my name is Teressa Raiford, and I started an organization called Don't Shoot Portland, which was in response to the Mike Brown murder. But before Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri, I was already what people were calling an activist or a protester, because when Trayvon Martin had been murdered, I was already organizing in the community, and people asked me to build a rally around his death when he got killed in Florida. So by the time 2014 came around, not only was I the go-to person for rallies and organizing protests, but people knew that I was gonna utilize that power and that influence and that courage of everybody speaking out to go to the state and have legislators hear us as well, so that we could make direct change. And so a lot of people might see us out there protesting and things of that sort, but my background was really business development. And that's why when Glenn told me, he wanted to be a rapper, I was like, well, you better learn accounting, because if you don't understand inventory and business and products and services, then you will be exploited. And if anybody heard of Solange and, At the Table, her new album? Well, one of the things that I've heard myself say more and more lately is that if you're not sitting at the table, then you're on the table, which means that you don't have a seat at the table. Your voice and the things that you believe in are not a priority of the establishment or the state. And so there's a table that people are welcome to who have voices that actually matter. And if you're not sitting at that table, if you're not invited to that table, then you're actually on that table. But what I'm starting to realize even more is that fuck that table. That table needs to be broken, and we need to build and establish a new situation so that we can build a space that tables don't exist, but we do. And the elements of our desires and the benefits and the needs in our communities, that those are the things that we put on the table so that we can deal with those things, so that we can dismantle as necessary, so that we can develop as necessary, so we can manage as necessary. And so the things that you guys are learning right now in school, the strategies that you're building, the organizing that you're doing, you're establishing the tools that are necessary to build those tables that we need in the world that you guys develop for us. And so the work that we're doing now and the work of the people before us, the civil rights leaders and all of that, all of those things are an inheritance. And so when you know that you are inheriting things like hate, misogyny, abuse, oppression,
Trauma.
and you also know that all of these different people before us in the times put struggle out. Some people were martyred in these struggles. When you know that their desires were for your humanity to be free and to have access to the access of liberty that we all desire, then that's your strategy. You build that and you demand it and you get it and you build tables and you put those issues on those tables and you take your body off of the table. Anytime somebody's putting you in a position to be exploited, demand that they figure out where they need to be, but do not let them in your space. You understand what I'm saying? Don't let people misinform you. Do not let people miseducate you. Do not let people misguide you. It's obvious that right now in the world that you know more than anybody else. And I'm talking about your generation. That the things that happened in the past were wrong. We all know that. And now you have adults trying to figure out how to get it right. And they're using their own experience and their own bias and their own priorities to try to figure that out. Don't let them. Change the world while you still know everything. Black Power.
So, my name is Mike Fletcher. 22 years old. Just to get it out of the way, I am the sole survivor of the Max stabbing on May 17th of last year. I was born and raised here. And I'll give y'all the same disclaimer I gave the last class. I'm going to ramble. That's going to happen. It's not going to make sense for a while. I'm going to pull it all together, and then you're going to go, we're all going to walk away with a point. I'm sorry that's the way it is, but it is the way it is. So, I was born with a condition known as Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of autism. And to put it a little more bluntly, because now that I'm thinking about it, I really don't want to have to say all this again, so I'm going to try to speed through and make it a little bit more coherent. Long story short, I don't pick up on social cues. And the fun thing about things like systemic racism, misogyny, etc., forms of oppression that are systemic, la-di-da, so most of them are something that we inherit via social cues and things that we're taught without even being directly taught them. It's just something we watch, we see it happen, we observe, we intercept, and then we exclude out into the world. Now, that's not to say in any way, shape, or form that I don't, of course, have these things within me. We all do to some degree. But I was much less aware because I was too dumb. Okay? It's not like I'm like a great person. It's that I was too stupid to understand that the world. I didn't even know Portland was like a white city. Y'all, like I grew up in Felony Flats. Most of the people I hung out with didn't look like me. Most of the people that were like mentors and people I loved didn't look like me. I had no idea that this was such a white-ass town until I was like 15. Now imagine that, mind you, okay? So like, you're not somebody that really understands where you're living in. You got your little neighborhood and your little clicked up folks that you like to hang out with and your mentors that you look up to like they're gods. And then one day you wake up and you realize that everything you know, or everything you thought you know, is bullshit. You made it up. You had no idea what the hell you were talking about. You can imagine one would be very pissed off at the concept and notion that all of these people you love, they don't mean anything to most of the world. Fuck that. They're terrible. They're subhuman to most of the established order of the way that things are, and if you've got a problem with that, no one cares. I think what really finally got me into what we call activism now was, is anybody in the Caldera program? Do you know Beauty?
I think I've heard of.
Okay, there is this wonderful woman, and if any of you ever get the privilege of meeting Micah Owens, you will understand why. So her name is Beauty, capital B-E, capital U-T-E-E. Be yourself to everyone everywhere, okay? That's the name she chose for herself. That's how this program works, and it's a youth program. She's basically dedicated her entire adult life to helping youth and just making your lives better. And as a kid who was getting the absolute mess getting stomped out of him by groups of 5 to 9 people every day, it was really important to me. She comes into school one day in a cast. Now, again, when I say this woman is kind of like Mother Teresa, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to like paint things eloquently with like words for you. No, I swear to God, I've seen the woman not smile once. She exuded positivity. The air around her smelled like lavender. She wasn't wearing perfume. She was just that calming. Everything about her was so wonderful. And so when she walks in with a cast, we're like, oh, she must have slipped, right? Because nobody would ever hurt somebody like that. Nobody, none of it. We are scumbag kids, mind you. These are kids, some of these kids are gangbanging and running around toting pistols like idiots, attempting to be cool, all right? Like, we were not good kids compared to, y'all are great. We were evil. Swear to God, all right? Y'all doing great. Good on y'all. And she explains to us how the reason her arm is broken is because a police officer bent her over a trash can, slamming her wrist behind her back, pushing it up and breaking her wrist, because she had the audacity to ask him while he was arresting a young black boy on the max with his boot firmly stamped into his back, officer, excuse me, may I was just curious, why exactly are you arresting him? And apparently that's disorderly conduct and disturbing the peace and worthy of not only what would be considered felony assault 1, if it wasn't somebody wearing a badge, but also being in jail for the next 12, 13 hours. And that was the very first time I ever felt a genuine emotion in my life, which was boiling fucking rage from every pore in my body. So fast forward to where we are now. As I've gotten a little older, notice that I said a little. I'm only 22. Not older, little older. I'm basically y'all, but also not at all. It's very weird how life works. Trust me, these next 3 years are gonna freak you out. You're gonna go from 0 to 100 so fast you don't even know what's happening. I'll wake up one day and be like, I'm living in South Carolina in my own apartment, and my mom's like in Oregon. What's happening? And what has ended up happening is I have learned more about all these issues we're talking about and realized the gray of the situation. You know, because you're going to hear a lot of these different words like fascism and racism and Democrat and Republican and conservative and libertarian, blah, blah. I could literally go on for an hour if I really wanted to, and I don't. And it's going to be confusing. And that's very on purpose. The key thing to remember about all of this, when it comes down to activism, is that this is a human issue. Or as a very good friend of mine and a mentor to me put it, fuck your politics. Nobody cares the way you think the government should run. This is about human beings' lives.
Period.
Whether or not you believe in your community being healthy or not, and there's nothing to debate about that, mind you. That's the reason why it's not a political thing. Politics implies debate. It implies that there's multiple right answers. There is only one right answer to the question, should people have health care? There's one, and that would be yes. And if you disagree with that, you need to reevaluate your concept of morality. That is the reason why we come to you today, because the thing is, activism is kind of a dicey game. It's dicey from a standpoint of we're having to navigate systems that force us to sometimes act in ways that make it seem as though we don't understand the reality of the situation and therefore we are being immoral. Or at least that's my personal experience right now. I am being put into weird positions where I feel like I'm having to act apathetic. Because the other fun thing about this whole work is that this work will destroy you from the inside if you don't take care of yourselves. Take it from me. If you're feeling depressed, get some therapy. You're not sleeping well, go to bed. You're not eating, eat some food, because otherwise you end up being a 22-year-old going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings where crusty 55-year-olds complain to you about what they were doing back when they were 30, and now they're like 24, but they're 55. It's not good. That's what happens when you don't take care of yourself. And these kinds of issues will mess with you mentally in a way nothing else will. I mean, the thing with you and Marcus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, touch on that?
Yeah, please.
So, a few years ago, 2015, I just decided to go to last Thursday. Actually, it wasn't. Renee had hit me up and was like, yo, come to last Thursday. I wasn't really feeling it. I was off work. I wanted to go home. So me and a few friends go to last Thursday and minding our own business, and out of nowhere, a shooting just happens, like right by us. Little did I know after the fact, bullets actually whizzed past us, you know. But Marcus had dragged the kid that had actually got hit into the shop, and so me and him had started tending to the kid's wound. And there are people in the shop recording stuff and handing us stuff to help the kid. The kid had a hole in his arm, and bullets had skinned his stomach. And we were just trying to keep him conscious because he was going into the shock. His body was in shock. And there was an officer at the door, and as we were tending to this kid's wounds, he was busting jokes on the kids, like asking us why we were even helping them if we were family. Like, is that the only reason why we're helping them? Like, this kid didn't deserve aid or something. And yeah, like instead of administering help or calling 911 or flagging down a paramedic or something, this grown man was looking down at a kid like his life meant nothing. And the ambulance came, and instead of bringing a stretcher, the kid kind of got up with a little help, and they had a shirt like this and had him walk to the ambulance and walked him to the ambulance like a dog. So after that, we leave the shop. We get to the edge of the block, and out of nowhere, like, we start getting pushed by a group of officers. Mind you, I believe this is the same group of officers, if I remember correctly, that when the shooting broke out, they didn't know what the hell to do. Everybody just looked confused. And they were telling us to get out of their neighborhood. And mind you, this is Alberta. This is a gentrified, historically black neighborhood. So we're like, why are you treating us like criminals when we just saved a life? Why are you automatically assuming that we had something to do with anything instead of just asking us? Like, clearly we were there. What do we see? You know, they start pushing it. And so that escalated, and that resulted in Officer Andrew Polis, who was involved in 2011, the shooting of Key Notice. He went around and pulled his weapon. I don't know if it was a taser or a gun, but after that, they all looked like guns. They all pulled their guns or tasers and pointed it at us and basically said we were under arrest for obstructing the crime scene or something like that, they said. And resisting, they always saw resisting arrest in there for shits and giggles. But as this was going on, as we were in the back of police cars, there were white people taking selfies by caution tape, mad that they couldn't get into Salt and Straw, the ice cream shop, and they were obstructing the crime scene, but like nobody said anything. They weren't in the back of police cars and all this. So as I'm in handcuffs, the sergeant pulled me out and started apologizing to me about his team making a mistake and told me that I wasn't the gangster. We weren't the gangster thugs. This is his words. The gangster thugs that they thought we were. And it's unfortunate because it takes us to be in handcuffs for them to see us. It shouldn't take that. You know, we ended up, and he promised to get us out of handcuffs because he admitted they made a mistake and all of that, but we ended up going down to the precinct anyway. And long story short, we pled no contest to our charges, and we got community service, and the case was eventually dismissed. And community service in the form of like feeding the homeless, which we were already doing anyway, so that's never a punishment. That's what you're supposed to do. But that's that situation. And that speaks to, you know, it doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter, again, your political ideology. And some eyes, you know what I'm saying, they're going to dehumanize you and patronize you. Even as kids, I'm pretty sure you get taught to, like, you're not as smart as you are, right? Like, people underestimate you guys. And really, what I want you guys to do is use that to your advantage. You're not weak for people thinking that you're weak. That's actually an advantage because they don't know how strong you actually are, and they're underestimating you. So I want y'all to definitely, if you don't take anything from this whole entire conversation, take that, because you guys have the power to change anything you want. You just have to apply yourself, period. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to share a story. Micah, I guess he listens to me sometimes.
Occasionally.
So I had, on my birthday one year, I started activism. Let's just start from there. I started activism because my nephew died when he was 19 years old. He got killed downtown on Northwest 2nd and Cooch. He wanted to go listen to some hip-hop at the Barracuda nightclub. And every month he would beg to go down there, and my brother would tell him no. And so he'd flip between parents to see where he was going to spend a weekend so that he can get to where he wanted to go. And a kid wanting to go to a rap concert shouldn't be a big thing, but my brother grew up in gangs, right? And he went to jail, and he came back home, and so he's holding on to all of this experience and all this life pain that is making him, like, be a very overprotective dad. Like, no, you can't go do this, and you can't hang out with these people, and I don't want you over there, and you're not old enough for this. And so it kind of made it an antagonizing situation between him and my nephew, right? Because my nephew wants to be who he is in the world, but my dad is so worried, my brother's so worried about his son turning into the person that he felt like he was in the world, and there's no shift in that. There's no education around it. All we know is that there's good people and bad people, and if you are a part of the bad people, you're probably gonna be bad. And so in my brother's mind, because he felt like he was bad, his kids were gonna be rotten if they had elements or access to elements in the world that created what he felt was bad for him. But what I recognize as his big sister, as somebody that went through all of the things that we went through together, like foster care, gang violence, domestic violence, our friends being murdered, you know, people that we loved that were like our grandparents that would die, and then we felt like we were by ourselves. All of those things that he went through, I went through too. But the fact that I was older than him, I was able to see that all of those experiences empowered us. And so the things that were going to happen to our children and the way that we were able to concern ourselves with taking care of them, that those were guides, but they weren't supposed to stop them from having access to life. But my nephew ended up dying, right? And so my brother, in his mind, he was right. You know what I'm saying? He was right. Like, I shouldn't have let him go to the show, right? And he would still be here. And I was like, nah, that's not what it is. There's stuff that's going on in the world that is out of our control. And no matter what we understand about it, no matter what we've had as far as our proximity to it, we still are not going to be able to change it until we start changing the world and undermining those systems that hold us to these problems. And so I became a protester, I guess that's what you call it, when you want to respond in a way that makes things change. Not just the cooperation of awareness and understanding, but the actual, I want to make a direct change. So in protesting, you have to understand what is it you want to protest, and what is it about what you're protesting do you want to change, and who is going to cooperate with you in making that change possible. And so I immediately started with schools because they were the ones that responded to my nephew's death. We had a big giant event that happened at Grant where they read his poetry. We had a big event at SCI where they talked about restoring the village. We had all of these people come together with the mayor and the press and the pastors, and over 500 people showed up at his funeral. But then after that, it was over. It was like, okay, business as usual. And for me, it could never be over, because when my brother's baby died, me being his big sister, that was like me losing my child, or me losing my baby, or me losing my brother. Like, all of the things that my baby brother lost, I was losing. And I couldn't imagine actually really losing my child. The closest I had been to anybody that lost their child was him. So everything that I do is for you, because I don't want you to graduate and die. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to graduate and give up on life. I don't want you to graduate from high school and not make it to college without a firm focus in your mind that anything that you want to make happen is absolutely possible. Because anything that undermines your availability to us in this world as capable leaders is a lie. So I start pulling the lies out. I use audits. I used to work for an accountant. And I would try to figure out, like, what is the system? Let me identify what the system is and how it works. And in identifying the system, sometimes when you as a person that in the system, it says you're the at-risk, the marginalized, the problem, the second-class citizen. When you go to that same system and you demand accountability for your life, the system doesn't see you as a person that can represent what is good for you. The system thinks that you have to be vetted and that you have to articulate in a way that makes it feel conditioned to being okay. Like, we're okay and you just didn't understand. That kind of stuff, right? You understand, right? Mm. I continue to press against that. I continue to move forward against that. Even when my own mom would say, I don't know what you're out there doing. You need to just pray. Why don't you listen to people? Stop yelling. Why don't you sit down and listen to people? I already did my research. I worked for an auditor. I know what people are saying. I understand what they're trying to tell me to listen to, what they're trying to show me as a function. Those functions don't work for me, Mom. But why don't you give them a chance to fix it? That's not fixable. Those systems are not reformable. We can't make them better. They work the way they're supposed to. They are designed to underestimate my value in the world. They are designed to keep me in a situation to be a second-class citizen, whether I'm a woman or whether I'm a black woman. Any person of color in this country knows that you're in a category. That's called segregation. That's not equity. But we've been conditioned to appreciate those systems. And so when we push, and let's say starting in the schools, when we push, hold them accountable. When you stand, make sure that people know what you're standing for. And even if you can't stand, make sure that when you make a stand or you make a demand, that it is very clearly and articulate. Make sure that when you are determined to do something that you have people that understand your determination. And they feel that you are valuable enough to back up. If someone tells you to question, oh, won't you think about this? Tell them that you've already thought about it. Won't you listen to what I'm saying and you take it and you think about it? And don't waste too much time trying to figure out how to make them understand what you're saying. As long as you feel it and you understand it, do it. You hear the Nike commercials where they saying just do it. Don't nobody say wait, stop. They say just do it. That applies to all things that are necessary for change, okay? Micah wanted me to tell y'all about how the police chased me down for trying to get SRO officers out of your school, and how when they traumatized us as I ran downtown with thousands of people behind me, we got into the city hall and found out that a collective bargaining agreement that had to do with our safety was being fast-tracked. I demanded that people in our community understand what collective bargaining between the police union and the city of Portland meant after Tiger Rulli got attacked in this neighborhood. He went to this school. He was one of Glenn's friends that contacted me after the police attacked him, and I contacted the press and everybody else. He just won his case last year. You know what I'm saying? When that happened, what I understood was that a lot of students don't know their rights. They don't know how to assert themselves to the officers that come in contact with them. And so I started pushing for that change by doing Know Your Rights training with the ACLU. When I started doing that, I started getting connected more and more with families, and I would tell them there's a collective bargaining agreement. When we talk about the children being stopped and frisked, when we talk about the police officers on the bus tasing the kids, when we talk about them taking your ID, when we talk about them speaking to you without an adult that you trust being there to be able to advocate for you, it's about knowing your rights. But what that collective bargaining agreement is, it's about them knowing their rights when they come in contact with you. It's about them having straight up specified directives on how to engage with the community, not to chase kids and shoot them. Like if a child is running from you, if Glenn is chasing a kid down the street and he shoots them in the back, that's murder. But we exonerate officers. We acquit people in our community that run and chase kids and shoot them. In the collective bargaining agreement, you can change that. And so when I was protesting for about 4 years and shutting everything down and trying to do all these community dialogues, it was for one thing, so that as a community, our voices would matter for that collective bargaining. On September 23rd, when I had the conversation with our community gang task force about the necessity for not just them to keep talking to us about what the kids should do and can do and would do, but for them to understand their rights also so that they could treat us as good human beings, we found out that the city didn't matter. They didn't care about us. Our collective bargaining agreement in Portland was supposed to be signed in June of 2017. We got attacked at City Hall in October of 2013. We went down to City Hall, found out about their agreement in September of 2016. When we talk about why are we protesting and if we think anything can change, those processes that are already on the table like that one, that could have changed things for all of us. That change right there, they would expect me to protest till 2022 to get our voices on the record. I'm not doing it no more. I'm here. I'm hoping you guys do something so we don't have to go back out there. But stay engaged. And if what I'm talking about sounds complicated, stay engaged.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate a number of what you just said. No, never mind.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, it's not.
Want some more coffee?
Yeah, of course.
To give y'all some context, fun fact, when you don't take care of your mental health and you become an addict and then you have to go into recovery and into rehab programs, and I want to be really honest with you kids, because I want y'all to understand something, all right? Failure is natural. And I mean massive failure. You know, look at me, I'm the big hero of Portland. Your big hero is a drunk. The reality of the situation is all of these caricatures we're being taught about, it's bullshit. It's kind of like when you learn about Abraham Lincoln. It's kind of like every other person we ever were taught about. And I want to make sure y'all know I'm a real person just like y'all. In fact, I'm probably more flawed than everybody in this room, but I'm trying. That's all this fight is about. It's not about winning. You ain't gonna win. Hell, your kids probably ain't even gonna see the end of this problem. My kids won't. That's really hard for me. I have a really hard time accepting that. Keeps me up at night sometimes. Teressa talked brilliantly, might I add, about how the system works exactly how it's supposed to be. I want you to picture your government like a grandfather clock, right? Like a manual clock. And the way that a clock is set up basically is there's something called a heart spring. What that is it's a spring that is wound to a preset amount of force that will last X amount of time in this system of gears. People talk a lot about reforming a system. Reform implies that a system is broken. In this case, our clock, as it were, there's like a gear, the tooth that's fucked up, or it's missing a spring, or a sprocket slightly bent. I don't care what it is. Something is flawed. And if you just go into the clock and you remove the piece, or you shave it up, or you shape it out, it'll be fine. There's a flaw to this argument, though. You're implying that the clock is what you want in the first place. You're implying that this is the device you need in the first place to solve the problem. When in reality, what you were actually asking for was, I don't know, a sundial, a loom, I don't care. But the point is, the problem is not that the system is broken. The problem is the system. The problem is that where you live in a world where, the people that are supposed to protect you hurt you, you pay them to hurt you, you have opportunities to tell them to not hurt you, but nobody tells you when or where they are or how to engage with them. When the actual government you're living inside of is something you're not even taught about in basic education. Ever. How many of y'all know what a super PAC is? I didn't see one hand raised, and it's essential to the voting process. I bet y'all don't, and it's not your fault. That's the key to it. Nothing's wrong. It's not, y'all ain't stupid. The school isn't doing its job. This is how this works. Let that sink in for a minute. All of this shit we're talking about right now, these problems that are getting people killed every day, mind you. It ain't no joke. People starving out there. Guy froze this winter out in the snow. They found his dead corpse like a popsicle on the sidewalk. That's meant to happen. You can't have rich people or a middle class without an immense amount of poor people. It's impossible. Can't happen. You can't have true communism either where everybody's middle class because that's just not how people work. And God forbid anybody be a centrist. Let me crawl back a minute, and I apologize, y'all. I'm getting a little bit emotional right now.
Thanks.
So, the thing about activism I really want y'all to understand is that activism is not something that you're going to be doing as a side hobby. If you do choose to be in this line of doing things, understand the risks. Like, I never even thought of myself as an activist, y'all. I just thought I was trying to do the right thing. Damn near died over it. 2 other people did.
Friends.
I get to live with that. I don't even know these people, y'all. Like, do you know how fucked up it is to miss someone you've never met? To picture their dead corpse in your mind. And I mean crystal clear, 4K video quality shit, my friends. You don't sleep, you don't eat, it's shit. And I was just trying to do the right thing. I wasn't even on their level. These are real activists. These people understand systems, work for votes, talk to the masses. I'm just some kid that was on a train trying to stop a grown man from yelling at a couple of kids. And then in reality, they didn't really even have anything to do with the damn knife. He assaulted this little hippie kid named Talesian, and I wasn't about it. Only reason I even know that is because I saw the video. Y'all, if you want to live in a world where you ain't got to worry about your child, your baby, your son, your daughter, I don't care. ended up in this hospital, there are really only a couple ways to do it. And the first is to understand what's going on. You gotta be educated. You gotta understand what these hate groups look like, what they sound like, how they operate, and where they're at. Do me a favor. Take one of these. Pass it down. Now, I want to make it clear here that this is not comprehensive, and that there are websites that you can go to get a more comprehensive understanding for the resources on what dangerous hate groups look like in America. Places like the Southern Poverty Law Center, your American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU.
National Lawyers Guild.
National Lawyers Guild is a really good resource.
Yes, they don't represent white supremacists.
Like, understand what these people look like in your neighborhood.
And what these symbols look like.
In your neighborhood. And when you see these symbols, do not tear it down. That's not the goal. Document, film, send. If you want to, even then, like, don't. File a police report or something. But don't.
Everything on the record.
On record.
Right.
Important to get it on record.
Has to be. Do not cover it up. That's the problem. That's the reason why we have this little Portland Nice phenomenon going on where nobody thinks this even exists in Portland. I think the funniest thing to me is that when this shit happened on the train, I mean, of course, in reality, the only reason it happened the way it did is because it was 3 white dudes that got stabbed. Like, I'm fully aware of that, much as it makes my blood boil in my veins. But what shocked me was how many people and news outlets were like, this is so shocking. I can't imagine this happening in my town. Who wants to take a guess at how many, like, well-known, like, extreme neo-Nazi groups exist in Oregon? Thousands? Not quite, but also maybe, I don't know.
Probably thousands.
Yeah, probably. 4. There's the European Kindred, there's the American Front, there's Volks Front, and there's the Wolves of Vinland. And each one has its own fun little flavor of fuckery for you to enjoy, sip and savor. Wolves of Vinland are these weird cultist, Celtic, crazy Norse. They think they're Vikings. And these are the kind of people that run around with like hatchets in the middle of the night and chase people down streets in clackaments. You have the European Kindred, which one of the symbol for European Kindred, which is a shield with an E and a K, can be found in your sheet right there. They are known white supremacist gang tied to the Aryan Brotherhood. They sell most of the meth in Gresham. American Front, again, another symbol you can find in there. It's a black circle ensconced in what looks like an A and F. Okay? These people are basically the Nazi Party. They're the new Nazi Party. Their mission statement is that they are preparing for when the government falls so that they can take over and establish white utopia, which is actually language that you'll find in the Oregon State Constitution.
Yep.
And none of this is news. Not a single one of you, I didn't a couple of years ago, knew about this, and none of it's new.
None of it's new. None of what we're saying is new.
They've been working on this since the late 1800s, and they've been brought in professionals from the southern regions to start the establishment in the 1920s. So we're where we need to be as Oregon to track that white land in.
I don't know if you guys even realize, but Oregon, as a state, it was meant to be a white haven. You guys know that? Like, you guys know about Vanport? Yeah, so you know some of the history. So this is, again, nothing new. This is historically documented. You know, this is systemic. It's old blood. Yeah. I still got some energy. But yeah, so it's important to, again, know your history so you know exactly how to articulate and what to pinpoint so you can address the issue.
Are there any questions?
So I live in a neighborhood where I do see these signs all the time, and you said call the police, but what are you supposed to say to the police if it's not an emergency?
I would say not even, because I've had hundreds of people call the police and tell me that the police won't do anything, they won't file an investigation. They tell them to, like the recruitment that they started in Gresham, 2 years ago, they were throwing candy with like little notes attached to like a little plastic, sandwich bag with the candy in it. They were telling the people to eat the candy and throw away the packaging. And so that's why, again, I'm saying, like, contact the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, splc.org, and file a complaint and just track it. Because the fact that you're actually just putting on the record that it happened, that's very important, because people, again, big agencies and organizations and even politicians will say, well, we haven't had an uprising, we haven't had an uptick in violence or race-related crimes or anything like that, and it's because people aren't filing the complaints.
I know so
They're
many
not
people.
saying that it happened, and so that means that it never happened. If you don't document, if you don't file an investigation, if you don't file the complaint, and you can do it with the mindset that nothing's gonna happen, but just do your best to articulate it. What happened? Who saw it? Where did it occur? What time did it occur? What did the people look like? Did you notice anything standing out in that neighborhood? You know, put that information out there in your community so that other people in your community know that these things are happening. And that's very important, because, again, like Micah said, when people come out and say, oh, they threw this hate stuff on this house, let's come together as a community and paint it. It's really funny that people are really quick to say, I got paint that we can donate, and I want to help with the brush, and I want to do this. Why don't we find out who did it? Why don't we kind of figure out who actually is doing this in our community? Who's actually burning the Black Lives Matter signs? Who's actually throwing the dog poop on the steps of the people that are transgender in the community? Why are those people protected by our silence? Don't we realize that our silence is complicity to their actions? And that our lack of documentation is acquiescence. That means we don't care. We have to start as a society doing things that are mindful in progression towards caring. And when we talk about building community, it's becoming very responsible and accountable to each other through those committed partnerships for our lives. Like, we're fighting for our lives. You have people begging for their lives. And all you have to do is articulate that something happened or that you saw something. Very strategic human rights work here. But it just requires noise and no silence.
I want to give y'all a real free and very real, and there's nothing to sugarcoat about it, but I actually respect y'all and I want y'all to understand the reality of the situation. Piece of advice. You want to know how to stop this from happening? You gotta learn to defend yourself. And I'm sorry to say that. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told a number of different activist groups that wanted to ask me to, like, speak at their, not even activists, it was like nonprofits or whatever, that wanted me to speak at their froofy little events. Love doesn't block bullets, and it don't stop knives.
Nope.
Trust me, I tried the second one. I ain't gonna try the first one, I ain't that stupid. The only thing you can do genuinely that can guarantee a chance, not certainty, a chance at being able to keep yourself safe is learning to defend yourself.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
I'm
it's
not saying
illegal.
run around and go play vigilante. You gonna die. That's a promise. You are not G.I. Joe. You are not G.I. Jenna. It's not gonna work. But if you are put against the wall, the minimum you can do is know or have some semblance of a damn plan. Okay? And stick together with one another. A threat to one of you is a threat to all of you.
Period.
Y'all are a community. I don't care whether you like each other or not. Y'all don't have to like each other. You have to understand that your health depends on one another. That is a fact. If one of you dies right now, you all just lost something you'll never get back. That's a promise. Trust me, I've lost a lot of people at this point.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know, raise your hand if you know the name Quantas Hayes. Yeah, Quantas Hayes was 17 years old, and you know, they surrounded him. 1 out of 5 officers found the need to shoot the 17-year-old while he was on his hands and knees following commands. 1 time in the head and 2 times in the chest with an AR-15. And there's no charges brought against him. His family is raising money for legal support right now to sue the city. But as far as the city holding these officers accountable and racism accountable and prejudice accountable, if we don't hold it accountable and if we don't come together to press that issue, they're not going to. It's just that simple. So when he's telling you to stick together, that's what he's talking about, is getting engaged and learning and applying what you learn. Because Quanis, again, he's 17 years, he could have went to Roosevelt. Like, he could be in his classroom right now.
He went to that Boys and Girls Club.
He went to the same Boys and Girls Club that many of y'all probably pass every day. So, again, like, if you think this doesn't affect you, you're already affected.
Yeah.
Period.
And that is the effect. It just did its job. So, you know, the trick to this is the following. Here's a fun fact. Very recently, somebody was already killed by a neo-Nazi. Does anybody know his name? And, like, I mean a verifiable swastika-bearing white supremacists that sell meth in Gresham, kicking it with guy. Anybody know the name Larnell Bruce?
That's sad.
Not
He's
one.
19 years old.
And that's not shame on y'all. Like, understand, that's not shame on y'all. That's the system doing its job, keeping you stupid. Because it ain't easy to be smart. There was a day and age you had to walk into a library. That was your full obligation. They have things called think tanks nowadays. A think tank is a group of people that create facts. Yes, you heard me. We live in an age where you can create facts now. I don't know where this magic came from. I would love a wand that procured such a thing. I would first ask myself to be a millionaire. But apparently, you can just decide what the truth is now. And y'all have to sift through that. Because you have all of our well-respected media outlets giving you about 75 different sides to a story, and you can't seem to get a fact out of a thin air if you tried. Larnell Bruce was a young gentleman that was run over by a pair of white supremacists in Gresham about last year.
August 2016.
August 2016, 2 years ago. Was run down in a truck by a group of white supremacists from EK. And what was that quote? What was the quote from them when they was
Get 'em,
asked why they
baby.
did it?
Oh, his
Oh.
wife was egging him on. Get him, baby, run him down.
Yeah.
Yeah, get him, baby. Run him down. Like, this is a fucking video game.
In the middle of the street, like chase him like it's Grand Theft Auto.
This is a 19-year-old boy.
And the fact that you guys don't know who he is, the thing that bothers me about that is that he was waiting for the bus at 7-Eleven. He worked as a volunteer at the Rockwood Center. He was 19 years old. He was a big brother and a little brother to his brothers and sisters. And I would think that children being murdered by white supremacists in Portland, and especially in a space in Portland where we've been gentrified to, that people would want our children to know about that so that they could be aware of their safety. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody knows that there's trucks riding around throughout the state of Oregon chasing down minority people of all ages. I got grown men being chased by buses. I got grandmas not buses, trucks. The same trucks with the flags, the same trucks with the big old, they got American flags on them now. They're buying like big old banner size American flags on the back of the trucks now, which is even more bad because it's kind of like they're putting us in a position to say, I'm not an American anymore, or I don't like America, so you're the patriot because
That's their goal.
your America stands for racism and hate and violence, and if I say that I have to denounce that, then I'm not being a patriot or some weird stuff. But there's a lot of weird indoctrination going on. Pay attention to your surroundings. File investigations outside of Oregon to social justice organizations because ours don't know what to do yet. They're still trying to figure out legislation that's going to give them the money to file the complaints when they're already set up as systems to file those complaints. They don't want to use the constitutional values that we have to deal with, the circumstances of discrimination. They would rather have a courageous conversation. You have to file those investigations. You have to file those complaints. You have to do the follow-up. You have to make people in your neighborhood, if you got to have your parents do the WhatsApp or whatever, put information out there, but make it to the point where your generation has that as a motivational tool that you can take out for next generation and the next generation. Like, each generation has a power play. Mine had video, music videos. We only listened to the radio before I was in high school. By the time I was in high school, we had video. So, right? We had MTV.
Yeah.
I think one of the first videos that came out was Video Killed the Radio Star, and
Yeah.
it actually did. But we use that motivation to create social justice in our generation. Your generation is right there at the same space now. And whatever you're going to use with the technology and all the social environment systems, do something with it to encourage communication. Because we don't talk to each other anymore. It's easier to text. It's easier to go online. It's easier to scroll through emails. But you're losing so much in doing that. Reject as many systems of conformity as possible and break out back into your communities and build. Like Sister Renee said, build community. Like Sister, Angela Davis told me the other day in McLaren, build community inside and out, wherever you are. Just build with people. Acknowledge humanity. That's how we start the breakout. That's how we even protect ourselves. And remember, at the end of the day, what I'm learning through the knowledge of life, there's generations of black and people of color that have been indoctrinated in the American system of it's illegal for us to protect ourselves. In America, brown people are not supposed to protect themselves any kind of way. That's why the police shoot us, like when Philandro Castile said, I have a licensed gun, and they killed him. And he was a cafeteria worker. Now we're talking about arming teachers. If you arm a black teacher and an officer sees that black teacher armed, they could still be murdered. So it's not like they have any answers, but your generation has to be mindful that these are the stupid things that are being said and being done and being produced for your safety. Have your voice in that matter. Have your actions and your body in what that looks like for the next generation. Like, build it. And I know you just want to be kids, but you weren't born into this world to just be kids. Right now, you're children. You're going to harness all of these experiences to become adults. But don't be idiots like our generation, please. I'm serious. Like, there's a lot of very bad things that are happening for you and to you that our generation had a big hand in. And I think it's because we just listened to the generation before us. And they listened to the generation before them. And they keep getting it wrong. Stop listening. Start speaking. Start doing. Just build.
So any questions, you guys?
Any questions at all?
How can we make other people that are in this room understand everything y'all told us, but without having to not necessarily repeat and give them facts about what happened?
You guys should have a dialogue afterwards. Your teachers and the administrators here at the school should have an opportunity for the people that brought this together to build a panel so that you as a student body can digest what's going on. I think that you guys should get an opportunity to write down how you're feeling right now, things that you're thinking about, questions that you might have, and then share that and build on the discussion. When we leave, this conversation should not leave. This is something that is an investment in your future. You're spending time with people who have given their lives to whatever we have to do to prioritize your future. And so while you have us here and while we have you here, take that as a mindful opportunity and build on it. And don't stop building. Like, you don't even have the luxury to not build. You're in a brand new building. And how does that make you feel? Keep building. Make a brand new world.
There are some in this room who are poets, yes? Some in this room who are artists, yes? Those are also ways to be able to communicate messages out to the rest of the students.
Power tools.
It's a powerful way to communicate, right, Micah?
I will tell you this much. I will tell you that I have been successfully able to go from a kid that couldn't even have a normal conversation with somebody my age, young girl, older, doesn't matter, to being somebody who, according to most people, sounds pretty smart. Note that I didn't say is, I said sounds. Very big difference, but, and that was all through poetry. Specifically, that was all through hip-hop music. Like, every media outlet has whitewashed it the way they always do. Like, it all started with KRS-One. It all started with Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Like, and yeah, no, it transferred into like some, a little bit of J.R. Crumb here, a A little bit of Buddy Wakefield there. But art, the funny thing about art is it is the most useful, useless thing you will ever find. There is nothing intrinsically value about lead in the shape of words on a piece of basically tree pole. But you can actually start an entire career, build a future, grab a wife, grab you a house, and some kids with that. If you work and try hard enough at it, it's kind of disturbing how valuable useless crap is. What isn't useless, however, is your thoughts. And that's where the art actually finds its importance, y'all. You will discover things about yourself and the world around you by processing it via, I don't care what it is, poetry, music, whatever, that you had no idea about. You know, I'm learning more and more that I have a major problem with my own self-esteem. That's just the truth. I don't think I've ever liked myself. I'm not sure I ever will. I work towards it every day. I got a therapist, I got medication, I'm working on it. But it's hard. It's hard even when you do good things, you know? If you have this set mentality in your mind that the world built into you, it's really hard to escape that after about 22 years. And I encourage all of you to try now. Like, because I know damn good and well there's probably half this fucking room that has some self-image issues. You don't have to say nothing. If you want to have a conversation with me later about it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. If you want to keep it inside, that's fine. But I implore you to deal with it now. I implore you to deal with it now. Because shit, if you think racism is hard, try hating yourself. That will make it hard to eliminate any hatred. You can't stop hatred if it's inside of you. That seed's already there growing, you're fucked. Now, that's been the hardest thing about this process for me, is having the humility to step back and admit that I'm a weak person right now due to what's happened. I don't do no activist shit. I haven't talked to these two in months. I miss the hell out of them. I haven't talked to her in months. I miss the hell out of her. And I can't. Because every time I try to engage with this shit, my wheels just spin and I don't sleep for days. And I spend literally all day laying in bed, stopping myself from just drinking until I can't even be awake. And that's the other reason why, seriously, y'all, take this serious. These things will fuck with you, your family, and your friends in ways you didn't even imagine. You had no fathoming of a clue it could do. And I mean, and let me be clear here. If you look like me right now, just remember, you ain't safe. I want you to understand that. Trust me, you ain't. You're just another race traitor to them. They don't give a damn about you. You ain't their brother. You ain't their sister. You ain't fucking kin. You disagree with me? I'll stab you. Now you're dead. Now all 7 of your brothers and your sisters never get to see you again. Now all your kids, they lost a father. Fuck you, because you disagreed with me. This shit is serious. I'm not trying to say that to be like mean or dramatic with y'all. I care about y'all. You know, this world's on fire. It's burning all the time. Every day it fucking sucks. I remember being y'all's age. I remember the shit I went through at y'all's age. There are horrors I will take with me to my fucking grave. I won't even talk with my goddamn therapist about it. I don't give a fuck. And it's just getting worse every goddamn year. And I want y'all gotta take care of yourselves. That's all I got to say. Y'all gotta take care of yourselves.
Take care of each other.
We love
Take
you,
care
man.
of each other.
Are you up for giving us a piece, Micah?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to bring us a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we started a student council, and we're using a lot of our activism and our ability to communicate with one another on how to, especially here in Roosevelt, how to stop a lot of the racism.
Speak up. We can hear you on this side. Speak up, please.
So we have the student council that we just started, and we're trying to stop racism here at Roosevelt specifically. Do you guys have any input in ways we could do it from like a student view, like a student standpoint?
Yes, start documenting it. One of the things is, so I had to, remember I just told you guys the story about my brother and how he felt that because he was in gangs that he was rotten and that his kids were gonna be rotten. There's a lot of shame with words. They can put words on you. So people that live in poverty in Portland, we have been subjected to becoming thugs or ghetto or hood. And then they started calling us gangs, which basically created an opportunity for legislative dollars to criminalize us. We need to start changing the language we use for white supremacists and even the way that we deal with them. And so when students are dealing with people discriminating against them here on campus, what we need to do is we need to put that on blast. We need to have an announcement board, or there needs to be some type of a campaign where you're elevating that hate speech and you making it bad. You know, like it didn't just happen, but such and such had to deal with this, and you're conditioning everybody to basically say this is not okay. So what if every week you had to come into school and there's these videos of people like, last week I saw a swastika on my desk, and that's all over the world. Guess what? People are gonna know that the administrators here are not dealing with the issue directly because students are still speaking out very loudly about what's happening. And I'm not saying that they're not gonna do anything about it, but if it's not an involved situation of filing a complaint, no one should be subjected to having a courageous conversation with someone who intends to provide violence against them. I used to deal with domestic violence when I was in foster care. I had to deal with molestation. I can't even think about them putting me in a position to talk with someone courageously that is intending to harm me or another child or another person. That intent needs to be documented. You guys are dealing with school shootings in America right now where your classmates are not safe. You're not safe from each other. And people are saying, I thought something might happen, or I heard this person, or if anyone was gonna do it, we knew it was this person, but then you have administrators saying, we never thought this was gonna happen. If you see something, if you know something, you have to document it. And because you guys have a council, and because you're obviously in a performing arts school, turn it into an art project and manage that communication in a way that pushes it out there, that you're elevating that is happening. And once that elevation happens so often, people are going to make sure that they maintain their own hate and anger towards other people, because they're not gonna want their thoughts or their actions or what they did to become relative to this campaign, right? They're gonna be hiding, they're gonna be at risk, they're gonna be marginalized, they're no longer gonna be wanted. And those are the people we actually don't want. And we're not profiling them, but their action actually speaks to what you're going to promote through your campaign. Not just the fact that they look a certain way or they act a certain way or know certain peoples, but their action is gonna be elevated to the point where no one is receiving that in a way that is okay. There should be zero tolerance on hate in schools. There should be zero tolerance when it comes to your safety in schools. We've been dealing with school shootings for over 25 years in this country, and even longer going back. There should be zero tolerance. No child should have to elevate their selves and their consciousness to the level of an adult and have to understand another person's intent to harm them. So just take it as zero tolerance. When it happens, it's filed and it's investigated, and you make that your demand. Every time. And let the people that are paid and that are professionals at dealing with that in the legal system deal with it. Your consciousness doesn't have to be put in a position where then you feel guilty that now someone else's life is gonna change, because guess what? Like with Quantas, the 17-year-old child that was told to crawl and put his hands up at the same time when they killed him, he didn't get the same opportunity that Jeremy Christian did when he got to throw a knife at the officers and cuss them out as he finished drinking, because he was scarier to them because he was brown. Jeremy killed people. He attacked 3 people and murdered 2 of them, and he had the opportunity to sit there, cuss people out, throw his knife at them, finish drinking his wine, and then be taken into custody. The police thought Quantas was stealing food stamps and food and panhandling for money, and they killed him as they told him to crawl.
With an AR-15.
This is America facts, y'all. Larnell Bruce is a 19-year-old kid that was super active in community service within the community, and children in the community that are in the same programs as him don't even know that their lives could be in danger just like his. A European kindred white supremacist murdered that child. But our lives don't matter enough to where nobody even knows who the child is. Elevate the communication that is necessary to demand change, and demand safety at all times, and tolerate zero hate, period. There's no negotiating that. When sexual violence happens, and we talk about Me Too, no woman, no girl, no man, nobody should ever have to tolerate being humiliated in the space with the person that it intended to put harm towards them. My experience from you hurting me doesn't make me the professional at making you feel better because you hurt me. I don't have to tolerate you. Don't ever allow anybody to put you in that position.
So, we talk about using art as a tool for social justice. What's on the board right here is my music video for Assata. And who Assata is, her name is Assata Shakur. That's Tupac's godmother / auntie. She was a former Black Panther back in the 70s at a time where, who knows about COINTELPRO? Have you ever heard that name, COINTELPRO? Word. COINTELPRO was an FBI program designed by J. Edgar Hoover to neutralize black organizations and assassinate black leaders because they saw them as a threat. Assata Shakur was accused of shooting a New Jersey state trooper. She was pulled over, shot with her hands up, left for dead, despite forensic evidence proving her innocence. You know what I'm saying? She was actually tied to a hospital bed, tortured, and then when she was convicted by an all-white jury, she was sentenced to solitary confinement for a few years in men's prison until she was broken out. And she's been a political refugee in Cuba ever since, with a $2 million bounty on her head from the American government. So I made this song and this music video to basically outline what the government did to her and the Black Panther.
Got away when we left for dead, you're the one we gotta say. Framed by the pigs way back in Jersey. The only thing you're really free to do is serve. So when you fight for your rights and you stand, watching for the man who wants drugs in your land, guns in your hand. Yes, man, though, COINTELPRO. Don't need open any letters in this way to COINTELPRO. Whips and chains, you sit around waiting for the shit to change. You point fingers, not at, you just complain. Assata didn't fight, just shift the blame. Kids getting off for murder, nobody pushing them further. Bunch of lost sheep out here looking for a herder. Killed off by leaders with a respect. Violence to be the only thing you respect. I watch news clips today. America always got some shit to say. Sees terror, breeds terror. Just drop bombs, some mothers and the kids, yeah, kids today. Shit, I don't wanna talk right now. Took another bullet to my heart right now. Told Bobby come out naked so they wouldn't shoot their weapons. See this mama get the news, yeah, it's all right now. Now, whips and chains, the American way, slaves, whips and chains. Kill Martin, but you'll never get a solid. Kill Malcolm, but you'll never get a solid. Whips and chains, the American way, slaves, whips and chains. Kill Bobby, but you'll never get a solid. Kill Fred, but you'll never get a solid. Crips and Bloods, Crips and Thugs. Nobody kill their brother, nigga, just because you created these conditions. Racism, segregation in LA. Fed kids on those spoonfuls of hate. Chasing Panthers out the states. Whoa, run, go, it's how to run. Tortured that woman in the cell. Broke out of jail. Now you wanna spread propaganda, but we woke up. No more for you to sell. Devils go to hell. Fred Hampton, in the city. Building unity with gangs. They working with it. CIA did everything they could to flood the hoods with heroin. At the same time, flash away our heroines, but I don't wanna talk right now. Took another bullet to my heart right now. Drug Fred brother sleep beside his bed, then they shot him dead, bottle in a sack. Yeah, it's all right now. Whips and chains, the American way, slaves, whips and chains. Kill Bobby, but you'll never get a solid. Kill Fred, but you'll never get a solid. Whips and chains, the American way, slaves, whips and chains. Kill Sophie, but you'll never get a solid. Kill Huey, but you'll never get a solid. Kill King, kill Lex, kill Fred. She escaped, you put a bounty on her head. Poison water in the air, power that we have as a people. Put our minds together as we unite to defeat you. Rationalize, they teach you. Don't conform to authority, cause under uniform, some of ones that bleed to. No justice, no peace, what the people say. The Indigos finna go rise and lead the way. 154 o'clock, but where's that for Trayvon, Grant Rice, Mike Brown, and Freddie Gray? I don't wanna talk right now. Took another bullet to my heart right now. Everybody's gone, now they want us out and touch us, but the revolution, yeah, it's about to start right
I have
now.
advocated and I still advocate revolutionary changes in the structure and the principles that govern the United States. I advocate self-determination for my people and for all oppressed people inside the United States. I advocate an end to capitalist exploitation, the abolition of racist policies, the eradication of sexism, and the elimination of political repression. If that is a crime, then I am totally guilty.
Whips and chains, the American way, slaves, whips and chains. Kill Martin, but you'll never get us out of it. Kill Malcolm, but you'll never get us out of it. Whips and chains, the American way, slaves, whips and chains. Kill Fred, but you'll never get us out of it. Kill Huey, but you'll never get us out of it.
You see Alexis in there?
Yeah, so actually, Ben back here, he actually directed this music video. So give it up. I heard that people want to take pictures and get in a group picture or something like that, or?
Yes, so, was this what